Well, what would you think about building a giant Jenga game for your next backyard party? It's going to be fun, and we're going to show you how to do it with materials sourced from your big box store to come out with a beautiful game just like this. Let's get started. When I went to the lumber store, the big box store, to purchase my 2x4s, the quality of them were just not what I wanted to do to make my Jenga game out of. In fact, some of them were so bad that I was afraid that if I used the 2x4, once I got it all just stacked up, it'd fall over already before you even started to play the game. So I brought them back. You watched me as I milled them down to thickness. We milled them to 1 1/4 thickness. I'm now going to cut them to 2 7/8 wide. And then we're going to do a little sanding on them and cut them to length. But let's go ahead and get them cut to 2 7/8 wide. After we had planed our lumber to thickness and cut it to width, we're now ready to do a little sanding. Now I've spent the last few minutes sanding, and all I'm doing is just knocking down the roughness of the planing and saw marks. I'm not trying to put a really smooth sand. This is not that kind of an item that we're doing. We're sanding it with 120 grit, and I'll just sand a piece so you can see how I'm doing it. Okay, and you can tell by how much sanding that I put on there. I wasn't really taking this down to the smooth ultra sand that I would do on a piece of furniture. This is just, like I say, just to clean up the saw marks and the planing marks so that we have a decent piece of wood to make our blocks out of. Let's keep sanding until we're done. Now that we have all of our lengths cut and sanded, we're ready to cut our Jenga blocks into length. The length of a Jenga block is determined by laying 3 pieces of your stock together and taking a measurement across. We're 8 9/16, because each layer will be like this, or will be this and this and this and this cross stacked. Okay, I have a stop block set up on my saw sled at the desired measurement, and we're just going to lay it up here and cut each one like this. I have squared up the ends of all of my stock, and so let me set it over here so I can keep that straight, and we'll go ahead and cut the lengths of our Jenga blocks. There are a total of 54 Jenga blocks per each game, and so we're going to go ahead and get the rest of those cut, and we'll come back after that and talk about how we finish these off. With all of our pieces cut, we're now set up with our router table, and we're going to take our router table with just a 1/4 inch round over bit, and we're going to put a little round over on the end, on both sides of the end, and on both sides of the long part of our little blocks. 2x4s, when they come from the lumber yard, they already have a little round edge on them. And so we're going to put that round edge back on, and that just keeps the sharp edge. Let's take a look at one of our blocks. After we got through milling it, we had a real sharp edge on here, and I didn't want that sharp edge while we played our games. I didn't want to have that sharp edge be an issue. And so that's why I set up this round over in our router table to just take off that sharp edge and make it much nicer to play with while we play our yard game. So let's see how that works. Let's do a little sample block. I have a little sample block right here. Let's do a little sample block and see how that works. With our routing all done, you can see how that just puts a very soft little edge on it. We don't want to take off too much because that's one of the parts about the Jenga game, is that it has to have a little bit of flat surface. But we're going to take our little sandpaper. We're just going to hit those edges that we just routed. Just clean them up a very little bit. Like that. And that sharp edge on the corner, we're just going to knock that off without taking it through the router table. And there we are. And that is how we're going to do the detail of the sanding and the route on the rest of our Jenga blocks. And they're going to look just like that, all of them, when they're all done. And you can see I have 54 of them to do, so I have some work to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get those all routed and sanded, and then let's come back and take a look at how they go together. Okay, we have spent quite a bit of time now getting all of our Jenga blocks routed and sanded and ready to go. I'm going to do one extra little step though. I'm going to take a little can of spray shellac, and I'm just going to spray one single coat on all of my pieces and then give it a soft sand after that, just to seal it and to make it a little slicker for the Jenga blocks to slide against one another as we actually play the game. Now we have two different colors. This is pine, this is redwood. I want you to pay attention. I did that for a specific reason. It's really cool when we get putting the game together. Let me show you how we're going to do our spray though. The shellac will seal it also, but it's just going to give it a little bit smoother surface for our Jenga blocks. We'll go ahead and paint each one of the blocks this way, both sides, and give it a soft sand to smooth it off. Okay, with our blocks all done now, let's go ahead and complete our stack for our Jenga blocks, 18 levels high. Now you can see why I had my redwood. I have a redwood piece in between two pine pieces on each level, and it gives it just a little kind of a nice color variation as we work our way up the stack. Okay, 18 levels high. That is what your game will look like when you're all set up. And the way the game is played is each person takes a turn and they push a block out down low and they move it up to the next level. And as soon as this level is completed, taking turns, you just keep you're working your way up. And the last person to put a piece on without tipping the stack over is the winner. And you can get this way up in the air. Now, I messed up with one thing, however. Look at all these pieces. And I'd have no way to pick them up and carry them. So come back on a future video. I'm going to figure something out, how I'm going to carry all these blocks out to the backyard when we have a backyard party. And we're going to see you then on Woodworking with Wes.